Alright, we are recording. This is gonna be a long one probably, because I got a lot of notes. Yeah. I'll quickly explain why, though. I've had this idea to try something, and I knew it would be a bad idea to do it, but I still want to do it because I had to start talking. Which is where I have the recording going, but I just pause it when I'm reading and not talking. I accidentally screwed up and didn't pause it at one point, so I was like, alright, I'll get rid of that file. But one thing that also did was instead of... Normally, I record the notes on my Kobo in a notebook. Hang on, I need to move this so I can actually see that thing. Okay. So I just use the pen, make notes there, and then I write it up again in a text document on the laptop. Well, because I was already doing those recordings, I wasn't writing it down on this. I was just typing it in. So now I stopped using this, and so I would just stop and write and write and write and write. So, yeah, sorry, you're going to get a lot. Anyway, very first note, which is so bad that it's like, no, I have to record this. I can't even wait until the end of the chapter. But then I've had to, so I've now finished the chapter, because as I said, I couldn't use that recording. Yeah. Obi-Wan Kenobi opened his eyes to find himself staring at what he strongly suspected was Anakin's butt. It looked like Anakin's butt, well, pants anyway, though it was thoroughly impossible for Obi-Wan to be certain, since he had never before had occasion to examine Anakin's butt upside down, which it currently appeared to be, nor from this rather uncomfortably close range. This I would consider what I label butt humor, and I hate it. I have always hated it. It is, at this point, decades old, because I remember when growing up, seeing cartoon shows that would do this, where, and this is why I also will refer to as butt humor, because they will decide to just, oh yeah, even though this character doesn't really need, certainly not a prominent butt, but maybe doesn't even really need one at all. Like, the pants can just go straight down. I mean, have some curve there to be somewhat anatomically correct, but it's not like you have to really define it. But they said, no, we're in fact going to have these things be as bulbous as possible, because, isn't that funny? That's what kids like, isn't it? And I hate that this is invaded into other things, but it did at least do one thing for me, which is that it confirmed a certain suspicion that I've had, and I really, really hate, which is this might be being written as though the target is not stupid kids, because kids are stupid. Okay, because they don't know enough yet. They need to learn more. They need to be able to have the mental capability of connecting various things. I was like, kids are stupid. That's fine. That's normal. Adults can be stupid too, just in different ways. It's more so an adult should be able to connect various things, but still might be lacking knowledge or have certain assumptions that are incorrect but hard-grained in. Yeah, there's stupid kids, and then there's stupid, right? With, like STOOPID. It's like, very few children I would expect are actually stupid. This is written as though it's for stupid kids, though. So, and butt humor is kind of like that. You can write up to kids, okay? This is writing down to them, right? And this, I consider it lower humor than even the Three Stooges, okay? That's how low I consider this humor. It's completely unnecessary. You could just have Obi-Wan is waking up seeing Anakin's legs. You don't even need to mention the pants. He's wearing them, but you can just say his legs. Because it also seems odd. Obi-Wan is hanging, but somehow his head is straight. It's not tilted like this. So he would be looking at the legs here instead of there at Anakin's butt. But it's also... That's actually true. I'm not even... Would that actually? I guess it might. I'm just trying to think if Obi-Wan would be the right height, that with his waist at Anakin's shoulder, that his torso would reach down that far, or would it in fact be a little bit off? Anyway, maybe it would actually align there, but it still is at his legs or something. You don't even need to mention the butt. You don't need any of that. Or it could be maybe he's short enough that it's like staring into Anakin's back. It's like, you don't need to do this butt humor stuff. But it's also, I want to point out, this seems like it's being written for kids. Stupid kids that like, farts, I'm gonna laugh now. That kind of stupid, as opposed to actually telling a good joke. And there is actually kind of one later. It's meaningless in this, unless you read Attack of the Clones, which I I have reason to suspect that the author didn't, because there are things that are inconsistent with that, but still, I want to show you another book, actually two, that is a children's book. The Hobbit. This is a children's book. There is absolutely no butt humor in this. Okay, this is a well-written book, and it would be described as writing up to children. Okay, because guess what? Children can read this. This thing's coming up on 100 years old. Okay? And is a better, far better children's book than this that doesn't even to have been written for children. And going to even older stories, this is a copy of Grimm's Fairy Tales. I have not yet read this. I have read The Hobbit multiple times, including this specific copy. But yeah, not only is this for children, but there's some intense stuff in here that you don't realize. Like one is that Cinderella, her stepsisters, in order to try to wear the glass slipper and marry the prince, they mutilate their own feet, cutting off their toes to have them fit. They don't, and it's very bloody as well. But it's like that's what they do because they want that stuff. That's how intense some of these get. Disney doesn't include that kind of stuff, and that's what most people are familiar with, the Disneyfied versions. There's also, for at least one... I mean, there's a lot of stuff in some of these. Beauty and the Beast also has some stuff where I think he gives as gifts to Belle's sisters, or stepsisters, something like that. Gifts that cause them to shrivel up and die. I mean, there's death, and it's... Yeah. These are intense stories. Well, at least they can be. And we're for children. We're for children. You can absolutely write up to kids. Butt humor is writing down, and I hate it. I hate it because kids can get better than that, and they deserve better than that. And it's also one thing for me, because like The Hobbit is definitely a kid's book. The Lord of the Rings, which I have over there, that is not as much a kid's book, but not for content purposes. I mean, maybe a little bit. More so, I would say, for complexity. That is a much more complex story, and as you grow up, you are better able to make the mental connections to figure it all out, to understand everything going there. So that's more like teenager, I would say. Whereas The Hobbit is younger than is preteen. This is neither. But it is one thing, though, this idea of complexity and content is something that I do wonder about with my own stories. I'm not sure where my writing style would fall as far as complexity. But content-wise, I would say A Letter from Catherine, content-wise, should be perfectly safe for most kids. I don't know if the complexity is right. Failure probably is as well. It is superhero fantasy, so yes, there's some violence in there, but I don't think it's anything that bad. Like, if that were a movie, it would probably be just like PG. Maybe touching on PG-13 would depend on the year, because there were some years where PG-13 is like, you know, intense, and but then there's other years where it's like, no, PG-13 would have been PG, like even a decade prior. The Children Many Gifts would probably be more so PG-13, because there is definitely some more intense violence in that, but that's kind of it. Everything else would be fine. But yeah, so it is something I do wonder about, but with this, it's like dumb. Just dumb. What's the next thing? Oh, yeah. It was funny. I already had recorded in that previous thing, like 20 minutes, because I went on a much longer rant, because I was right at when that happened. But we recorded for 20 minutes, and I was only on, like, page 3 of the chapter. That's how... I really hate this. It is so poorly and badly written. And this is something about the narrator now, which... Okay, I'm just looking at that because I also wrote up a little bit better, I think. And this is one of the things, I know it's a style thing, but it's also something that I disagree with enough to actually say it's bad. But technically it is a style thing, so it is, if this is your style and that's what you want to do, then that's how you're going to do it. It doesn't matter if I say it's bad or not. Which is, in a book that's third person, you have a narrator. Technically in first person you do as well, but the narrator would be the character. So, for me, a narrator will have some personality, yes, but shouldn't have too much if it's third person. I mean, it also does depend on the type of third person. If it's third person unlimited, there should not be that much of a personality to the narrator, because he's up here, or she, I'm going to say he, for the narrator is up here, and it's just describing the events being seen down here, but isn't adding much. I may add some personality, like, if only they had known about this, just basically a commentary to the reader, because the reader may already know something. Oh, if only they had known, like, the monster was in that closet waiting for them, was behind that door, if only they had known. But then it's also, you may stop there and, like, not even describe what happens to them, because you don't need to. But, that's a little bit of personality. If it's third person limited, then you can have some more personality there, because then it should be attached to the character. So, it bounces around, and you may follow the personality of that character then. But then it's not so much the narrator's personality as the character's personality. This is like trying to do both, and I disagree with it. And it's also just how Obi-Wan is being handled here. I'm going to have to, like, read so much of this, but I really, really dislike what they've done to Obi-Wan's character. Isn't quite to the level that I hate the character. There is actually something later on where it's making me hate Anakin again. This isn't making me hate Obi-Wan's character, but it is causing me to lose some respect if I take this as accurate for Obi-Wan. But I think what I would rather do is take it as the author doesn't know who the hell Obi-Wan is. That this is completely inconsistent with Obi-Wan's pre-established character and post. Like, the events after this in A New Hope, this is not what either version of Obi-Wan would do. Okay, so he's woken up and is kind of confused by everything. Have I missed something? Hang on, he heard Anakin say. We're in a bit of a situation here. So it was Anakin's butt after all, because we have to continue with the butt humor. Suppose he might take a modicum of comfort from that. Looking up, he discovered Anakin's legs and his boots, and a somewhat astonishingly close-up view of the Supreme Chancellor as Palpatine seemingly balanced overhead, supported only by a white-knuckled death grip on Anakin's ankle, because they are in the turbolift shaft, which the gravity has shifted, so that now, instead of it being a floor they're walking on, Anakin is with one arm holding on to cables to keep him falling, another arm is holding Obi-Wan, because Anakin is a conscious one, and Palpatine is holding on to his ankle. Oh, hello, Chancellor, he said mildly. Yeah, are you well? The Chancellor cast a distressed glance over his shoulder. I hope so. Obi-Wan followed the Chancellor's gaze. Above Palpatine rose a long, long vertical shaft, which is when he finally realized that he wasn't looking up at all. This must be what Anakin had meant by a bit of a situation. Ah, Obi-Wan said, at last he was finally coming to understand where he stood. Now I'm pausing here, because I just want to explain that thus far, I don't necessarily care for the, oh, hello, Chancellor, are you well? I don't necessarily care for that. I feel, mainly the are you well, that seems too much just polite conversation, as opposed to asking, are you hurt? Or anything like that. Recognizing, okay, we have rescued you, but I don't know what happened with that. I need to assess your situation. So not a, are you well? That's too polite. But so far for this, he is confused. He doesn't know what's going on, and he might still have a little bit of a head trauma. Actually, that's true. He technically should be concussed, but we basically don't have any of that here. It's like concussions can last for a while. I had a concussion once when I was a kid, in 5th grade. And that was interesting. Let's just leave it at that for the time being. But, so it's like some discombobulation makes sense, and him working through this is fine here. But we also do, like, drop it after a few minutes. So it's like, not quite. But anyway, yeah, so I don't care for the are you well there. I'm okay with the, oh, hello, Chancellor, he said mildly. It's like, he's still trying to figure out the situation, doesn't necessarily grasp yet how much danger they are in. Okay. Ah, Obi-Wan said, at least he was finally coming to understand where he stood. Now we're getting into the stuff I hate about the narrator, and shortly after, the stuff I hate that they're doing with Obi-Wan here. Understand where he stood. Well, lay. Hung. Whatever. That's the narrator talking. The well, lay, hung, whatever. That's not appropriate personality for the narrator to have, since this is more third-person unlimited narrator than third-person limited. Because also, I don't even think that these would be the thought. Well, if this were the thought going through Obi-Wan's mind, that would be one thing. That's not what this is. It is the way it is separated, And also how it is being described. At least he was finally coming to understand where he stood. Well, lay, hung, whatever. And it's a separate line. It's a completely new paragraph. Is there an actual technical term for paragraphs that are basically just a single sentence? Very short paragraphs? I'm not sure, but it still is, because of that separation there, that further reinforces for me that this is the narrator talking, and I don't think that's appropriate. I mean, if it were a where he stood, well, hung, that's fine. But well, lay, so first correction, hung, second correction, whatever, total dismissal. It's like, why is this even here then? Like, I would scratch that whole thing out and just let it be where he stood, and then like semicolon or something there. So not even ending the sentence necessarily. Stood, well, hung. Something like that. Which is, yes, just a correction, and then we're moving on. But you're emphasizing this. You're giving this personality to the narrator that I don't believe should have it. By the way, another thing I will add, and this is just for... I am very conscious and try to be active with this in my writing style. Because of something I learned back in 8th grade? Maybe 7th grade, I don't remember. But that basically, outside of conversational text, you don't use contractions. That's something I was taught. And I do believe that various style guides have relaxed on that. This book is clearly guilty of using contractions in that. But it's still, no, I actually actively choose and actively watch to avoid doing that. I mean, when it's not conversational. So like when I'm writing an email to somebody, if it is conversational, like just between friends, then yeah, I'll use contractions because then it's more like I'm just talking. But for something like this, because there was a contraction somewhere nearby. Oh yeah, which was when he finally realized that he wasn't looking up at all. It's like that I would not do. And I know that is not necessarily not necessary, but it is. I also prefer to do that because it kind of goes back to the personality thing, clarity. In that when you write it out, you're not using contractions at all. You're being very clear. You're also being kind of clinical, and that's more so where I see the third-person narrator is supposed to be. It's supposed to be more clinical. It's supposed to be telling you what's happening. Some personality, yes, but more clinical, where it's like I'm observing it and reporting it to you. Or even no, you're the observer. I'm just giving you the description. It's like, so for absolute clarity, that's the only place you use the contraction. Well, you don't use contractions, it's only in the conversation, because that is how we talk. And just... that I get is your own personal style. I'm just mentioning that because that may help you understand why I am so bothered by how the narrator is being given personality here and in other places as well. Just this really stood out to me. Anyhow. Obi-Wan had said blah, blah, blah. And Count Dooku? So Obi-Wan is asking about this. Anakin said, dead. Pity, Obi-Wan sighed. Alive, he might have been a help to us. Obi-Wan, not in this particular situation, granted, but nonetheless, can we discuss this later? The ship's breaking apart. I hate this. Obi-Wan is trying to... Obi-Wan is a Jedi Master at this point. He's on the Council. And he's been in a war for 3 years, as is Anakin. Okay? This war has been going on for 3 years. Obi-Wan has just woken up. He has ascertained that he is hanging from Anakin's shoulder. That this is a bad situation. Now, he sees that the Chancellor's there and is apparently healthy, right? So that's good. So we came here to rescue you, good. Apparently you're still okay. What about Dooku, the person who's threatening you? Because from Obi-Wan's point of view, he doesn't know how the Chancellor was rescued, and he doesn't know what happened to that grave threat that is Dooku. He has no idea. So he's trying to ascertain things, to understand the situation. That's fine. So it's like, and Count Dooku, dead. Okay, and so at that point, Obi-Wan should have all the information he needs and should now be trying to do something to improve the situation. Such as looking around to see, like, figuring out, Anakin is carrying me. He only has one arm that's keeping us from falling. He should be looking around trying to figure out, okay, where can I grab on so that I can also be supporting us, or at least be supporting myself so that Anakin is only carrying one person, Palpatine, not two. But instead, it's like, no, pity. Alive, he might have been a help to us. It's like, and then not in this situation, but nonetheless, what are you doing having this conversation here? This is a very serious situation you are in. Okay? And this isn't the kind of situation where, I mean, in some situations it can be serious and you throw in something funny. You throw in some banter to help lighten it. But you're not ignoring, you're not setting aside the situation when that's done well. It is like, oh yeah, this conversation only makes sense when it's not this bad situation. Right? That is the only way this makes sense. But it's also exactly what we're getting. What was the next thing? Okay. Okay. So they do eventually make it through. Yeah. Oh, and I just realized that that's a typo. I know, I'm so weird. I gotta make sure my notes are typed correctly. So they've gotten back to the hangar deck, which apparently has been attacked. So the blast doors are, in fact, buckled somewhat, not completely. So atmosphere is continuously being lost, which actually is very stupid because there should be airlock doors that would be preventing that even. I mean, I do not believe that the author here, or whoever advised the author on the ship design, has any idea what the hell would have to go into a spaceship. Yeah. Anyhow. So they get back down there and realize everything is destroyed and atmosphere's leaking out. Fine. Oh, also, it is kind of relevant. Anakin lost his lightsaber. It fell down the shaft when he was trying to hold everyone else. So, and he doesn't want to let Obi-Wan know that, which there's reason for that if you read Attack of the Clones, and we will get to something later on. I do want to mention it, but it is a problem because it only makes sense if you know Attack of the Clones. But anyway, so they're on the hangar deck there. Droids are coming, so Obi-Wan has drawn his lightsaber to deal with that threat. Anakin is focused on Palpatine and making sure that he's safe because he doesn't have a lightsaber, can't do anything else. But then as he's looking around, he notices movement amongst the droid parts that are just around everywhere. And also ship parts, because everything is destroyed there, nothing is useful. And he notices some activity that is very bad, because what it indicates is gravity shear. So apparently, artificial gravity works like this, where there are multiple gravity generators on a ship, and they are able to just create arbitrary gravitational fields, such that they can point in any direction and can be at any place. So, not necessarily sure if we can assume they are planes, but let's just say it's a plane where all the force goes that way, okay? So basically what we seemingly feel we're walking on Earth. There's so many problems with this, but let's just say that that's the case. Well, they're saying that there's multiple gravity generators. I mean, already we've had that, apparently it can just twist around arbitrarily. But apparently now there's multiple, such that, currently there's one that has a plane like this, pulling down. And now there's another that's like this, and is going to sweep over and causes gravity shear. And it also, I guess, is just going to, like, that one will fade away. Like, this gravity generator, they're desynced. And it's just like this one is going to collapse its field and this one's going to take over, I guess. But they're describing this. And Anakin's like, okay, well, I'm going to tie Palpatine off to me, grab onto something. And then he's also going to grab onto Obi-Wan. Because it's going to turn such that now the hallway that the droids are coming down that Obi-Wan is protecting, that's going to be down. So the wall on either side, that's going to become the floor. So he grabs onto Obi-Wan not to keep him from falling down, which technically doesn't make sense because if the gravity shear is going down, he would fall, but then the gravity would change and he would then be walking. Then the floor would be the floor again. So that actually wouldn't be a threat. But it's more that what Anakin is recognizing is that when that shear happens, when it arrives, the blast doors that are already broken, so some atmosphere is leaking out, which again, that isn't what should be happening, but anyhow, that they will buckle further such that now the battle droids that are being destroyed are going to be sucked out, pulled through, and just go out into space. So he has to grab onto Obi-Wan because once that happens, he'll be pulled away. Okay. So they're describing in here. Gravity is going to be pulled that way. Well, actually, hang on. Let me check on this. Yeah. So the timing of this is that the gravity shear that causes the blast doors to buckle arrives at the same time that the wall becomes the floor. So now gravity's here pulling down, Anakin here, Palpatine here, and Anakin has grabbed onto Obi-Wan to keep him from flying away because the atmosphere is venting out. It is with such force that Anakin has to grab onto Obi-Wan despite gravity pulling him down. He's being pulled up. That's how much force is involved here from the atmosphere venting. Enough that the destroyed and not destroyed battle droids get sucked out and they actually keep taking pot shots at him. And are going to be pulled out of the doors and all, right? However, despite that, we're talking, I'm not even sure if that's hurricane force. We might be talking tornado force winds. I'm just unsure if a hurricane would necessarily lift persons off the ground if they're just standing there. I'm not sure. Tornadoes certainly can. That's what he's dealing with, but they hold a conversation. It's like Palpatine even asks the question. This is not... Oh, wait, no. Sorry, Anakin shouts. This is not the best plan we've ever had. Palpatine can hear this. This was a plan. We'll make our way forward, Obi-Wan shouted. And it's like, I get you saying shouting, but you're talking about enough force moving up with air movement to lift a full-grown adult, full-grown man off the ground. And it's pulling him up. Like, this... It makes no sense. There should be zero communication. They shouldn't be able to hear a damn thing. It's also, where's this atmosphere coming from? I was like, there would be some in the hangar, but you'd think, well, shut off the vents if we're continuously venting atmosphere, like the vents into the hangar. Shut those down. All right, then it has to be coming through the hallway, coming from the door that's open for the hallway. Well, why is that door open? But it's also, there's not going to be that much atmosphere. I mean, none of it makes sense. None of it makes sense. What's the next thing? Okay. So Anakin stresses, and by the way, there was something that is talked about here, but Anakin stresses that, where's R2? We have to get R2. And Obi-Wan's like, no, you have to be able to leave him behind. It's part of the Jedi way. We have no possessions. And that seems odd to me, that this idea of no possessions. I mean, I understand some of it, but it's like, this seems a bit overdone. Just the level of it here. Because it's like, well, what about the lightsaber? Well, yeah, that's like part of your life. So no, that one's important, but no, what about tools to service it? Okay, those possessions as well you need to keep. What about my Jedi robes? Those two, it's really just, we're allowed to have what possessions you think we should have. It's not got anything to do with having possessions or not. You're all hypocrites, aren't you? There's having possessions and then being possessed by your possessions. If the Jedi want to be the whole, well, you need to be mindful to never be possessed by your possessions, that's one thing. But they try to present it as though, no, just having possessions are bad, except for these few that we have a white list of possessions. You're allowed for that. Everything else is bad. It's kind of that whole difference between, distinction between logic and wisdom. It's like, the logical thing might be, well, we don't really allow possessions because there can be issues, whereas wisdom is more so the whole, well, no, it's not the possession, it's not having possession that's a problem. It's if you become obsessed with it, if you become jealous over it. And by the way, yes, jealousy is the correct term there. People have confused jealousy and envy colloquially, where envy is wanting what somebody else has. Jealousy is about protecting and guarding what you yourself have. So a jealous husband would be somebody who is hyper protective of their wife. Whereas envy would be like some Jesse's girl kind of thing, where wanting somebody else's girlfriend or wife. That would be envy. That would also be other things as well, but that's wanting something you don't have. Jealousy is about having what you have. Jealousy over your possessions can indeed be very unhealthy. So that makes sense. But it's not about the possession. It's about your feelings towards it. Anyhow, we finally get, this is chapter frickin' 6. We finally get a mention that, oh, Anakin's married to Padme. And it's actually just, oh, he's married. We get that for about half a page. Then she's actually mentioned by name. It's like, I do believe, even in a series like this, where you have a sequel, you need to make it self-contained. So all the information you need is in that story. Or it is, well, yes, all the information you need is in that story. I know with my So Many Gifts, there's some stuff not explained there. It is in there, and just enough is given, so hopefully you will just keep reading. Not worry too much, whereas it might be in failure that it's actually delved into, that you get the details. So it kind of annoys me. It's taken this long to get here. And there's some other issues with it as well. I also find it odd, though, how long it takes, because, like, building up, he's married. He's married? It's like, we could have been talking about this earlier. It's like we've been actively avoiding mentioning he's married the entire time. I don't know why. But then it also takes, like, half a page before actually naming her. And it's like, I get the whole, trying to introduce this slowly. But it's like, no, just you shouldn't have waited this long. I legitimately was half expecting it wouldn't be until we're through all of this, he's back on Coruscant and, like, goes to her. And she gives her a kiss or whatever. She gives him a kiss or whatever. He kisses over, you're back from this battle. I thought I could launch you, something like that. That would have been more appropriate, I feel, than a just in the middle, we get this. And yeah, anyway, what it goes into is, for one thing, the whole, to be a Jedi is to renounce possessions, except for this list of things that, yes, you possess those, keep them, and in fact, you need to be jealous over them. Anyway. But that meant he couldn't give her any gift aside from his love. I get it. I do. I just really don't like how this is written. But I do. The sentiment, I get, it's good. The sentiment is good. The writing is bad. It's also funny. I didn't have many friends when I was a kid, so I built one. He's giving her C-3PO. And it's like, you actually did have a fair number of friends when you were a kid. It's like, I read Phantom Menace not that long ago. You did have friends. So, and he actually, even in Phantom Menace, it was stated he built 3PO to help his mom. It had nothing to do with him needing a friend. He was trying to help his mother. But he's decided to give that to her, to give 3PO to her as a gift, to just a gift to his wife, to help express his love in a material way, not just by actually loving her, by the not just an emotional way, in a certain way, because I don't remember if it is mentioned here or not. I don't feel like trying to read it. Even the ring is kind of meant as a material gift there of love to show it. I mean, there is greater symbolism to the ring as well, but in theory, so the ring would be a higher level of gift. But in a way, that's what he's trying to do here. Makes 3PO such a gift to her of significance, like that. She at first is like, I can't accept him. I know how much he means to you. And he's like, I'm not giving him to you. He's not even really minding. Okay, that's actually kind of nonsense. But I guess it means he's free now. What I'm really doing is asking you to look after him for me. Okay, this is kind of important. But it still is like, this is shortly after they were married, which means it's shortly after he got 3PO from Owen, from the Lars family. So it's like, okay, that's fine. Because it is also, what does a Jedi need with the protocol droid? Nothing, really. He doesn't need him. But this senator from Naboo could make use of one. And they are friends. That's well established. So it's like, him giving 3PO to her actually makes a great deal of sense. Because it also can be they maintain a friendship. If there's ever a problem with him, he can come around and fix it. It's like, it makes perfect sense, and that there's nothing suspicious about the timing to suggest that there's something more to their relationship. But 2 years later, so it apparently took 2 years of Anakin fighting in this war for him to finally become a Jedi Knight. He gives her another gift, and it is kind of funny how it actually tries to describe this. Oh yeah, and they're referring to them as devotion gifts, by the way. Yeah. one long, thin braid of his glossy hair, such a little thing of no value at all. It's like, well, no, it actually is. It's already set up. And this is of great value to him, and it does make sense it would be of value to her for a couple of reasons. But it's the Padawans are supposed... How long have I been going? Wow, I'm going to keep going. There's so much I hate about this chapter. But the braid, the mark of the Padawan, when you become a knight, it's cut off. Now, technically, he shouldn't have been... You'd think that the Jedi wouldn't allow him to keep it. Oh, and there's another issue here as well. But he cuts that off, and he gives it to her. Now, it is of value to him because it's I finally have graduated to be a knight. I'm no longer just a Padawan. I'm a knight now. So it is of great significance to him. So to say of no value at all, it's like, no, it's of huge value. And to every Jedi, it would also be seen as value. It would also be the whole, but shouldn't be keeping that possession's bad. Don't. Get rid of it. So he gives it to her. But it's also the whole, like a lock of hair used to be a very common devotional gift because it is something personal. It is something literally from the person. And technically also there can be, and some fiction does actually mention, well, I think not just fiction, but the idea that because your hair can hold your scent, so it might be like, if you have it in a locket or something like that, you can open it up and just smell it and be reminded of the scent, which can bring back a lot of other memories. I think that is a little bit also part of it, but still is. A locket of one's hair is a very traditional devotional gift. So this of no value at all. It's like, no, it actually is of great value, even in our culture. I have no idea what you're talking about here, why you're talking about it this way. Anyhow, this is 2 years later, and she has decided to make R2-D2 a gift to him. And it's like, oh, yeah, well, after all, what does a politician need with an astromech? But I'm a Jedi. That's why I'm not giving him to you. I am asking you to look after him. He's not really a gift. He's a friend. It's like, yeah, that's fine. And they also talk about different upgrades here, which seem a little like, oh, yeah, I realize there's a problem here. Well, I'm just going to correct it this way. Which in some ways is fine, but it's like this technically should have been set up back in Phantom Menace. So that the Naboo just always upgrade their ship, their astromechs, such that they're actually highly desirable. Does that mean that's a business for Naboo? That's a job that they have? Because that would be kind of neat, but that should have been set up in Attack of the Clones, should have been set up in Phantom Menace even, and it's not. So I think you're just saying this because you realized, oh, I said that R2-D2 was upgraded by Naboo engineers. That's never been talked about. Well, I'm just going to say that's what they did. But here's my other problem with this. This is 2 years into the war. I was talking in a different video how it would make sense, because, I mean, the same point. What does she need with an astromech? He does have need of it, because he can use it with his ship. So it does make sense that he would have R2, that she would give it to him or just loan to him as a, this will help you in the war. But 2 years later? I'm sorry, I'd be like, wait, I mean, hey, nice astromech droid. Yeah, where'd you get it? Senator Amidala gave it to me. Yeah, I mean, we've been friends for like over a decade and such. It's like, oh, that's nice. But why only now? What do you mean? Well, you could have been using that for the past 2 years in this war, right? I mean, it would have been really helpful to have your own droid. And is it upgraded and such? Yeah, it's upgraded. So why only now? Well, because of, I finally become a knight. I'm no longer just a Padawan. Haven't you been going on missions these 2 years with your master? Yes? There's something else going on here, isn't there? No. I mean, it's like, it falls apart once you start realizing that, why now? The timing is important, because the usefulness was years prior. It also tries to mention that now that he's a knight, he doesn't have a master looking over his shoulder anymore. He's not being tracked so much. It's like, so for 2 years, he's managed to maintain this secret relationship and no one noticed, but you even point out that he has been tracked. No one to monitor his comings and goings. And it's like, because it's not even mentioning here, like, that he was hiding it. No one to monitor his comings and goings, and so he could take himself to the vast Coruscant complex at 500 Republica, where Naboo's senior senator kept her spacious apartments. And it's like, Okay, how is he doing these 2 years prior? This is bad writing. Okay, this isn't just poor writing. I'm going to say bad writing. I'm going to elevate it to that level because there are clear plot holes here, and very, very reasonable ones, such that if you didn't even mention, like, the whole no master over his shoulder, no one commander is coming, if you didn't mention that, the plot hole disappears, but you've instead highlighted the situation that demands an answer, and you're not bothering with it. What was the next thing? Yeah, so I brought out quite a bit about this because it really is a significant problem. Okay. So now we're getting into some of the, I know it's science fantasy, not science fiction, but it still is. You gotta do a better job of this kind of stuff. Mention of the invisible hand, so that's the ship they're on, is breaking up. And also that it's spinning, so there's centripetal force, which is already a problem. Because it has that spire thing. We're going to get to that in a little bit, but it's like, it's throwing pieces off. Okay, it's been battle damage, that makes some sense. But mentions this, it doesn't mention about any of those accidental missiles heading towards the Republic ships that are nearby that are actually trying to keep it from escaping. That would be relevant to share, but it's also, and we do get a mention later on about there are so many ships around, because Grievous is like thinking about leaving with Palpatine. And it's like, there's no way he can leave without Palpatine because they've committed too much and lost too much. It's like, well, you've been ignoring that anything else exists for a while. Now you're mentioning it. I mean, it's... I am not saying this to believe I would do a good job. I just know I will do a better job than this when I get around to write, because I do want to write a war story in the Catherineverse. So, space battles. I'm going to be doing my best to not make these stupid mistakes, because these are stupid mistakes. Okay, then the next thing that is mentioned, because as I said, Grievous wants to escape. Because, I mean, just to be clear, the first note here was just the whole, these accidental missiles, we're ignoring that. I mean, yeah, they'll hit Coruscant, but we're ignoring that they'll hit any of the ships that are literally parked nearby the ship, nearby the invisible hand. Anyway, now we get to, Grievous has a, hang on, I need to drink water. I'm getting a headache from all this talking. Water is so good. Anyway. So Grievous has a ship prepared. Well, a pod that will take him to a ship that's already like primed to jump out into hyperspace. And he intends to grab Palpatine for this. And by the way, it is also established somewhere, it might have already been established, that the Jedi can turn off Palpatine's locator beacon. This is about a little later. Well, actually, no. In my rant that I'm giving you. So Grievous is going to take him onto this pod. He won't, but that's what he's thinking he will do. Take him onto the pod, goes to a ship, and then... the ship, aboard the fleeing ship, which would then make a series of randomized micro-jumps to prevent being tracked before entering the final jump to the secret base on Utappa. It's like... So you've never apparently read or watched the movies or understand how hyperspace works in Star Wars. You cannot be tracked in hyperspace. We're ignoring the sequel trilogy, but even then, let's say that we believe the sequel trilogy is true. That is how many decades after this? That's when the technology is actually found? Micro jumps are meaningless. There is zero value to them at all. Okay? None. Now, if the ship were being tracked, okay, like there's a beacon on that, because that's the only way you can track one of these, and it's only when it's in normal space, not in hyperspace, then a bunch of micro jumps means nothing. Absolutely nothing. It would be a jump here. So, we can go and follow. Jump here now. Go and follow. So it's like doing that, but as it sits there, you leave it, and then it keeps going. Right? So then it can be like it jumped to Tatooine, head to Tatooine. Oh, it's disappeared again. Now it's appeared in Naboo. Okay, we're going to Naboo. Meanwhile, somebody's landed on Tatooine. because they don't. I mean, you may be doing a lot of that, but it's still like that would actually work to avoid being tracked if it is the ship being tracked. So, in A New Hope, they should have encouraged the Falcon to leave. In fact, Leia should have been like, go here, all right, bye, I'm getting on my own ship to go to Yavin. Why don't we go somewhere else? Where? Rebel base. Okay, where is that? I'm not telling you, because I don't know who you are, and I can't let the Empire find it. That would have been reasonable, and that follows with how that technology works. This is completely ignoring that. But it gets even worse, because he wants to bring the Chancellor with him. He wants to bring Palpatine with him, who has a locator beacon. And that the Jedi haven't turned off. So are you going to turn it off? Because now it also gets into this whole, hold on, if he has a locator beacon, then why did you stick around? Yes, Dooku wanted to stick around so that Obi-Wan and Anakin would come and he could deal with them. Yeah, I get that, but take Palpatine, fail to remember to turn off the beacon, just like these two did, and then go to a different setting. Go away from Coruscant. Take him there, so now you have greater control over the setting for this. Instead of having a pitched battle going on, you could drop out there and even like obscure his signal, then turn it on, such that then you don't have a full fleet there. It would just be Anakin Obi-Wan. The plan falls apart. Prince Humperdinck would not have made this mistake. It's going to be, for me, tomorrow. I'm hoping to do multiple of these chapters today. But for me, tomorrow, when I'll finally be able to talk with my brother, who loves Star Wars, about that Humperdinck is a better master. Prince Humperdinck of the Princess Bride is a better mastermind than Palpatine. Also better than Dooku. Than Grievous, it seems. Or Dooku, rather. Yes, because it was Dooku who had the plan for capturing them. But even then, that was it was Palpatine passing it down. So it's like that's going to be hilarious having that discussion with him. Because I do think I will win that. That's like, no, Palpatine is lousy as a mastermind. way too sensitive to all these various variables that he cannot control. He cannot control them. And it is I was like, what if it wasn't Anakin and Obi-Wan that arrived? Or what if they never identified that Palpatine was on the Invisible Hand before they arrived and he got destroyed? It's like, you just got killed. Along with Dooku, your apprentice. Literally, the Separatists have just lost, and the Sith are dead. Your plan is terrible. I mean, it's like... Okay. Oh. Where is that? That this is also one thing. Okay. I have to read a bit here to help the setup, and I don't remember where to exactly start. But he was not willing to go without the Chancellor. This is Grievous. This operation cost the Confederacy dearly in ships and personnel. We've just been completely ignoring that there are other ships for all of this. To leave empty-handed would be an even graver cost in prestige. Winning this war was more than half a matter of propaganda. Morale, more so than propaganda, but anyway. You don't win a war by just declaring the propaganda that you won. It's like you do need to break somebody's morale. But anyhow, much of the weakness of the Republic grew from its citizens' superstitious dread of the Separatists' seemingly inevitable victory. A dread cultivated and nourished by the CIS, Confederacy of Independent Systems, shadow feed that poisoned government propaganda on the HoloNet. The common masses of the Republic believed that the Republic was losing. To see the legendary Grievous himself beaten back and fleeing a battle would give them hope that the war might be won. It's like, hold on. Anakin and Obi-Wan have also stated that they're losing. They're not the common citizens, the common masses of the Republic. No, they're warriors in it. Obi-Wan is referred to at one point as a general, even. They would know what's going on. Okay? So them saying that... So what the hell is this? This is inconsistent and touching on incoherence. Because it's like, this is so out of line with what you have previously stated in, I think, even chapter frickin' 1? I think it was 1. Yes, it was 1. Because that's when Anakin and Obi-Wan arrive. And Obi-Wan mentions this. It's like... But it's also... You're telling me no one watches the broadcast and like, huh, that's weird. We were reporting on all these victories, but why is it? Why is the video actually saying we're losing? Like, no one notices this? I mean, it is. Let's just set this where it is, which is in the bullshit pile. Let's just set that there and talk about just what this concept is. And it is actually a very interesting concept. Imagine, because potentially the technology is possible today, a deep fake kind of thing, where if you could take control, intercept some news station's feed, some news channel's feed, and have a continuous deep fake there, such that you are changing what is being broadcast. Okay? To convince people of something else. That's actually a very interesting idea. And you could see something like 1984, if Orwell were alive now, and writing that he would put something in there like that. So that way they could adjust the scripts, the news scripts, at any time. Or even if they do discover that there are people trying to do underground broadcasts, still intercept and take control of them. The problem is that that's going to be found out. That interception is going to be found. Because you do also want to watch the feed to see, wait, that's not what was said. Or to use a different example, like imagine English news broadcast being put into someone that speaks French or Spanish or Chinese, one of the Chinese dialects. They give translated subtitles. If you were changing those subtitles, though, then you are controlling the message for those that don't understand English. But those that do understand English realize that you're lying and will call you out on it. But still, it's like, there's so many ways that this doesn't, it's bullshit. This could not happen this way. Somebody would notice, and yeah. So it would not be working. All right. And then I got the thing about mentioning with, now we get to Palpatine's beacon. But yeah. We then have, so we're actually getting to near the end of this. Yeah, it's just, there is so much in this chapter for me to despise. It's almost impressive, except that should never be the case. I don't know when. It'll be interesting if I do try to read through Utopia again and do assigned reading with it, because I also, that I appreciate, because I can at least read that as a satire, because it was meant as one as well. And about how it has things that are inconsistent and things that are so stupid. But as I said, that is meant to be satire. This is meant to be sincere. It's just terrible. So we talk a little bit about, okay, the gist of this, and actually I think, no, it is mainly just this one large note. That basically lightsabers are useless, is the gist of this. Grievous has his personal bodyguards equipped with weapons that can counter lightsabers. Okay, and to be clear, these are droids, which it also mentions that apparently one wears a scar from a lightsaber, which knocked out an eye for it, and they never replaced it. It's a droid. Obviously, you replaced the eye. What the hell's wrong with you? But so it's resilient to blaster fire. It mentions that it has a crater, but didn't pierce the armor. And then apparently a lightsaber slash to the head wasn't enough either. But that they have a weapon, that their staff weapon is able to deal with lightsabers, and they're trained for lightsabers. Okay, so lightsabers are no longer that useful. You also apparently have armor that can withstand it. Okay, this is a problem. But then we also have the ray shielding, which, when Obi-Wan takes his lightsaber and just taps it, just touches the ray shield with the lightsaber, there's an explosion of energy that almost knocks the thing out of his hand. Okay, ray shields sound really, really powerful, so we're just going to use those everywhere, right? It's like, we have found a tool that will neutralize all Jedi. So, we're doing that, right? No, we're not. It's a war, aren't we fighting the Jedi? Yeah. Why aren't we doing this thing that hard counters them? I don't know. I don't know why we're not doing that. Are they hard to put up? It seems no, because it's like we can just arbitrarily put it at this cross section of hallways. We can just arbitrarily put it there. And by the way, also in the ceiling and the floor, we can do that. So why aren't we doing that? Stop asking good questions. The lightsaber is invalidated as a weapon here, because it is useless against the ray shield. Because it's described as a ray shield, not even just a shield, but a ray shield. So supposedly it's different than just normal force fields. Knocks it out, almost knocks it out of his hand. And it's also described as annihilating energy somewhere. It almost threw Obi-Wan into the annihilating energy of the ray shield behind him, suggesting then that if he hit it, it would kill him. So, put him in a bubble and crush it down, and you killed them. Obviously, they don't want to kill Palpatine here, that's fine. But it's like, this is a perfect trap to defeat all Jedi. Because unless they can knock out the emitters of the ray shield, which neither Obi-Wan nor Anakin even attempt to do with the Force, they have no defense. So you have found a perfect way to counter all Jedi. And you're not using it to win this war. Obi-Wan ends up blaming that, why didn't we see this coming? And suggests that it's a dark side, the shadow on the Force. Our instincts still can't be trusted. Don't you feel it? But then he goes on a little bit later. Dooku's death should have lifted the shadow. Now, Palpatine interrupts here. If you've a taste for mysteries, Master Kenobi, perhaps you could solve the mystery of how we're going to escape. Okay. So in theory, you could read this as Palpatine is trying to prevent Obi-Wan from realizing that he's the Sith Master. Here's the problem, though. Obi-Wan is supposed to know that the rule of two. So there should be a master and apprentice. Now, Dooku, to our knowledge, only became the apprentice. Well, only became a Sith. Let's ignore master and apprentice for the moment. With the defeat of Maul. Now, Maul's training was decades long. So prior to Dooku leaving the Jedi Order, which is reasonable to assume that's when he became a Sith, not before. So let's just go with somebody would have noticed it, so it's not unreasonable to assume that. So that means that Maul would have been master or apprentice at that time. Okay? Either way. With Maul's death, only the master remains. Because if Maul was the master, then his apprentice would become the master. Okay? Because there's no one left. So he's the master. Which would mean Dooku would have to be the apprentice. But also, it's like, unless Dooku killed his master and then took a new apprentice, there's still going to be two here. Obi-Wan, you should know this. And it's not unreasonable to be like, it would be the master, because Dooku would have filled. After Maul's defeat, the one left was the master. Doesn't matter if he had been the apprentice, he's now the master because the master's dead. So Dooku would have to be the apprentice. So why are you even questioning this? Why even like, well, we only killed, and it should be like, well, we killed one of them, there must be another, and he's still doing this. Palpatine doesn't have any concern about him being identified. And Obi-Wan should just put one and one together, or rather put 2 minus 1 together and realize one is still left. We're making Obi-Wan dumb here, and we shouldn't be. Okay, then there's also some back and forth about Anakin having lost his lightsaber, and it mentions that, is it lost? No, because Anakin knows exactly where it is using the Force. He had to grab a communicator to figure out where the hell R2 was. So I guess the Force can be used to detect some objects, but not other. Again, it's nonsense. It's incoherent, as in lacking coherence. It's like sometimes it works this way, sometimes it works that way. And this comes up after they have been, like, all the droids have come and captured them. Okay, it's not lost, it's what, if that's what you're thinking, Yeah, that was the truth. Anakin could feel it in the Force, and he knew exactly where it was. No? No. Where is it then? Can we talk about this later? Without this lightsaber, you may not have a later. I don't need a lecture, okay? How many times have we had this talk? Apparently, one time less than we needed to. Anakin sighed. Obi-Wan could still make him feel about 9 years old. He gave a sullen nod toward one of the droid bodyguards. He's got it. He does? And how did this happen? I don't want to talk about it. Anakin, hey, he's got yours too. That's different. This weapon is your life, Obi-Wan. He did a credible enough Kenobi impression that Palpatine had to smother a snort. You must take care of it. Perhaps, Obi-Wan said as the droids clicked the binders onto their wrists and led them away. We should talk about this later. Anakin intoned severely, without your lightsaber, you may not have a... All right, you win. So, I'm okay with this banter, but there's two main problems with it. One is, this only makes sense if you are familiar with Attack of the Clones. Right? And in some ways, yes, you should be. But it's also, there's other moments where it's like, you clearly don't know Attack of the Clones, because this is not Obi-Wan's character. Well, in other places. This actually, no, does align with Obi-Wan's character. Him still wanting to chastise Anakin for this. And the little back and forth. That is actually fine. I'm good with that. But other things would say, no, you clearly don't remember what was going on there. Or at least you're not caring. But it's also... as the droids clicked the binders onto their wrists and led them away. Wait. You're capturing these two. You've taken one of their lightsabers, and you're allowing them to have this back and forth before you secured them? The hell wrong with you? All right, I mean, this is like such a classic in so many movies, where you got these two people, they start bantering back and forth, they're upset like that, and then it's actually a distraction. You're only paying attention to what they're saying, not what they're doing, and then they attack you. It's like in Galaxy Quest, which is such a good movie. Oh, there isn't a novelization of that, but I would read that. Well, I don't think there's a novelization of it. I'm just assuming there isn't. That probably wiped the floor with this thing. But in that, you have that exact cliche happening. But the thing is, it works. It does make sense because it does distract the person. And here it's like, no, we're just doing... They should already be bound. Or be told, shut up. And then bound. It's like, that's what should be happening. And it's not. All right, you win. I'm sorry, what was that? Couldn't remember the last time he'd won an argument with Obi-Wan. Could you speak up a little? It's not very Jedi to gloat, Anakin. I'm not gloating, Master. I'm just savoring the moment. And some of that, it is nice, okay? It's a little too light. And it's also, I don't think, it's not very Jedi to gloat. I mean, it's like, yeah, but it is a fair point that you are treating him poorly. You are talking down to him. And it's like, well, yeah, but you just lost the argument. It is kind of fair. You don't need to say, it's not very Jedi to gloat. It's like, just more of a relax, Anakin. Just cool kind of thing. That's it. You don't need it. Okay, now we got the final thing here. And this is... I don't fully feel it. But this is the actual finale for this chapter. Which is, this is how it feels to be Anakin Skywalker for now. It makes me want to hate him. I'm not fully there. And it might just be I'm so disconnected from the book anyway. But it still is what is written here. If I were invested, would make me hate Anakin more. And just like the whole, all he needed was permission to murder Dooku. And it's directly connected to this. Yeah, forget General Grievous. What is he compared with Dooku? He can't even use the Force. It's like, yes, this is important. I mean, I get you're potentially doing this to build up Grievous, but it still is the whole. He doesn't have the Force. So why do you think that he's a threat? How did he get the lightsaber? Sorry, that's more so. What you have done, what happened in the General's quarters, and more important, why it happened. So this reference to murdering Dooku. Is all burning away in Coruscant's atmosphere, along with Dooku's decapitated corpse. Because apparently that spire, just from the ship spinning about, has broken off. It's like, it's a very badly designed battleship, isn't it? Because you expect to have to maneuver at high speeds. And there's no suggestion here they was shot, they was damaged, and that's why. No, it's just, it broke off because of the spinning. Yeah, this is a badly designed ship. I mean, it's already, you shouldn't have that damn thing on there. I mean, it's kind of like with tall ships, that you had chain shot, which you would fire specifically to cut down mass. It's like you would cut that thing down. I mean, I don't think that the concept of chain shot would be alien in Star Wars, but anyway. Already it seems as if it happened to somebody else, as if you were somebody else when you did it, kind of true. And it seems as if that man, the dragon, I didn't get into that. It is kind of a neat thing, but as if that man had really only been an image reflected in Dooku's open, staring eyes. By the time what's left of that conning spire crashes into the kilometers-thick crust of city that is the surface of Coruscant, those dead eyes will have burned away, and dragon will burn with them. And for the first time in your life, you will be truly free. That is how it feels to be Anakin Skywalker, for now. It's like, hang on. Fortunately, I'm done with this. This is 3 years after the events of Attack of the Clones. And it was only earlier in a previous chapter where he finally could focus, could cut through the guilt and regret he had had over killing the Tuscans, which was also murder, right? But this is like, oh yeah, just because the body's burned away, I'm good now. It's like, dude, you're supposed to have a personality that abhors this, that is going to hate yourself for having done this, that is going to be filled with guilt and regret. We've already established that you had it for a previous event. That in some ways was worse, in some ways not. I mean, in some ways it was equal, because you still murdered people that were defenseless. Either way, and it's like, you're making me hate him. It's like, he committed murder, but it's like, oh, well, the body's gone, so now it's all okay. It's like, no, it's not! You're supposed to feel that! You're supposed to be troubled by that for years! Because that's what's already been established, that you get troubled by this stuff for years. And it's also worth noting, Padme knew, because he told her right after, as part of his, just confessing to try to feel better. But then he also told Palpatine. That was a choice he made well after the fact. So it clearly was bothering him. It was painful for him, and he wanted to be free of that pain. And now it's like, oh, the body's gone, so that's fine. No one's going to find the Tuscans. No one's going to go out there. And some of them, I mean, yeah, some, okay, have lightsaber wounds, but who's going to know that it was you, necessarily? So it's like, it's still kind of the whole, well, the evidence is gone, but it's like, You're making me hate him. And you shouldn't be. He's one of the protagonists. I'm supposed to like the protagonists. I'm supposed to connect with them. I'm at least supposed to respect them. And I have more, you're giving me more reason not to. See you in the next one.